Come here. I see you. Smile.
Okay, good morning, good morning. Hold on. Let me stop sharing. Good morning to Jason, Unbiased, G Mama, Broke Farmer, and anybody in the bushes. It's been a minute. As I said, I had a deadline for end of January. It was pushed to the 24th. And then by that time that was finished, other stuff happened and it was just time for a little break. But here we are today. I hope everyone is doing well. And we're going to have an open conversation about seed starting and some things that we want to share with the community in case you're new to gardening or you're not new, but you're having some challenges. We're going to discuss that as well as how what's happening in the world is affecting us in terms of gardening. Good morning, Growing Up the Box and Analytic. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I was not anticipating the new year with the changes in government. And before the man come in, it's been you know, drama and turmoil all around. The tariffs were a huge problem. It's still a huge problem. Huge. And the inflation has already been bad with food as it is. And that was just taking it to a whole other level. And it still kind of is. I don't know what's happening in your neck of the woods, but over here, it's been buy Canadian heavily in the stores, in the media, government departments, private sector sending out lists to the public to differentiate Canadian made versus Canadian produced and basically buy Canadian. In a way, there was some good that happened in terms of seeing the logistics and the barriers between interprovincial trade that makes it easier for people to trade with the across the border. And they're definitely going to start to change that. But that was stressful. And that is, yep, someone stole 100,000 eggs. People over here are robbing jewelry stores. So if someone's stealing eggs, you don't know. Not even eggs. A few months ago, they were stealing butter because and selling it on the black market because butter has gone up to maybe sometimes $7 for a butter square. And people who bake and make their own stuff, that's, important. So there's a lot changing in the world, and ultimately it's affecting us who are quote unquote gardeners or homesteaders because in some aspects I'm finding it's more expensive, but it also depends on where you are. But stealing and this whole egg thing is just like, I don't know why eggs, like the last 3 to 4 years, it's been eggs, and this flu. And, you know, there's caveats and nuances to all of this stuff, but we'll discuss that. It's a problem, but those tariffs are a huge problem. Everything here is by Canadian. I still think our premier, provincial premier, he basically said on because on Tuesday I was ready to go. They were removing all. Good morning, and OCD is chick, and I think I said hi to Jason already. Yeah. Oh, you know how to make ghee, and I've been buying ghee, G Mama. I've been just buying ghee. It has a longer shelf life, so it was time for me to switch over, and I did buy a bottle of ghee. And Costco has those kind of things in bulk, so sometimes you have to pivot, and that's one way to pivot. Maybe start buying ghee and learn to make it yourself. I know that Homestead Heart does it, and I think it's classified as rebel canning because it's not technically in any canning book. So do it at your own discretion. That's a warning, but at the same time, people who've been doing it for years and feed their family, and nothing's wrong with none of their family members, you know, take it as you may. But ghee is not hard to make, and you can start to can those things and preserve the butter. When you get a good deal, buy in bulk and preserve it. But it's been challenging. But I think that our premier he said he's going to remove all U.S. liquor from our liquor store. They didn't do it on Tuesday because there was a 30-day extension. But even that was honestly, it was irritating to my spirit because I found out about it. Like, it's great, no problem, it is great. But the way the media has spun it, depending on what side of the border you're on, is what was irritating to me. So it was made to sound like almost like Mexico and Canada are begging. We made a last minute deal and we're begging. I don't believe anybody in Mexico and Canada was begging. I think that was twisted in the wrong way because I think it was realized how much impact it was going to have on their own people, and they made a change because we've been trying to have conversations from what I heard from the media, and they were not willing to be taking their calls. So I don't know what's going on in these streets, but it sounds very petty and vindictive, and millions of people are being affected by this behavior. So let God be with us all because it's going to be a rough go around. So eggs are being stolen by the truckload, by the trailer truckload. Uh, Butter's being stolen. It's a hot mess. So the tariffs, inflation and tariffs are hand in hand, and that's also affecting. Good morning, Rambo. Affecting food access. I don't know again what's happening. I'm gonna drop the link for our usual group. If I don't know you, don't come in the background, please. Let's not have that today. I've never seen you before in my life. Just sit down and watch. I don't know what's going on in your neck of the woods, but food is expensive. It's been expensive. I've been talking about it for over a year and a half. But as of now, with these tariffs and this going back and forth, and availability of produce because of these retaliatory actions, it's becoming more increasingly difficult, as well as trying to buy, variety. It's becoming increasingly difficult. The healthier foods are taking a hit, which is what we're supposed to be eating. These packaged foods is not even food, in my opinion. So this is causing a big problem. It's already hard for families to afford to feed their entire family. Having one income is almost, you're in poverty. It's a real problem. Good morning, Fifi. It's a real problem. We've been talking about it, but I think a lot of people now, you know, the ish has hit the fan and splashed back in their face, and they're seriously seeing what this is causing. And now everybody wants to scramble and start growing food. But there needs to be a fundamentals of understanding how to grow food. So let's talk about that today. The simple things, how to start. There's hydroponic, there's in ground, there's raised beds, there's a whole kind of things that are available. And how to pick the right one is dependent upon your own situation. We need to teach people the options that are available because it's not one size fits all. And some of us in the audience and in the replay are doing a variety of things, not just one, because we have the space and we have the options to do hydroponics. We're doing in ground, we're doing raised beds. If you're in a cold climate, you're doing maybe in soil in the house, you're doing a grow tent in the garage. There's a variety of ways to grow food. It's also becoming increasingly important with the recalls and the GMO foods. Good morning, Miss Shirley. And all those kind of things. It's becoming important to some people, the quality of the food that they're providing for their family. So that's also important. We need to keep track of what's happening in the news, or even not in the mainstream, but in the underground news. There's a lot of involvement with your food, with ingredients, with wording that is misleading to many people, and it's not what you think it is. Good morning. Who did I miss? Someone just keep. Oh, good morning, Bayou. So be aware. We did a sugar-free challenge. I think we're still doing it in some form or fashion with Bayou Sugar. And she went to the store and she went through some of the ingredients. And there's a lot of things that are sugar that are not labeled as directly sugar. So that's one thing you need to look into, because you think you're doing well and you're like, oh, I'm wondering why people are getting diabetes and insulin resistance. But a lot of the foods that you're eating, there is sugar in them. It's just not labeled it as sugar, or it's not declared at all. That too, the same store. So I don't know if it's a supplier issue, because are they using the same supplier? But there's a lot of, I've been seeing the same stores. Now, I've been talking about recalls, in my opinion. Again, this is not medical advice. This is not, this is just entertainment only. Everything's being called for recalls. That's if they do a public recall. Sometimes they don't do it. you need to just not trust your food, period. Even if it's not a recall, the amount of hands that touch your food from start to finish is one thing. And then in the store alone, the amount of people who just like to touch everything, they're not buying it. They're just touching, then they put it down and go somewhere else. I don't know why this man had to touch every, cilantro because he just wanted to look at this because I'm shopping. It's like when you're shopping, they follow you. Oh, why is she buying that? And then they just touch 10 of them and then don't buy no cilantro. Why the hell are you touching? So even that alone, if you don't, you know, have recalls, even that alone, the touching, the amount of people who don't wash their hands when they use the bathroom, you need to wash all your produce, period. And you need to treat it as if it's been recalled. I don't have the, I don't believe that recalls mean that I have to throw out the food or return it in every case. I personally don't believe that because there's been recalls that were never publicly recalled and we ate the food and whatever happened, happened. Trying to keep it in line with the chat, but I have been off for so long. I'm like, the drinks, which are sweeter than the normal ones and have no added sugar. Yeah. And they add, I think they classify aspartame and all those things not as sugar, but it's just as sweet and it's a chemical, which comes with its own set of problems. The recalls aren't public until months later. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So even if you tell me, oh, you bought this yesterday, you need to recall it. What's the point? Again, my opinion. If we're washing our food properly and treating it and cleaning it the best we can, whether it's vinegar, peroxide, baking soda, even sometimes dish soap, people be putting in the dish soap because it's so bad in these streets. What's the point of throwing it out or returning it if all food is dirty? They water the commercial crops with basically sewage water. Like this is not going to change. This is the state of current affairs. It's been that way for not even now, for over 10, 20 years, to be honest. But because of the volume of production and the volume of food and how fast it got to turn it over, the problem is getting increasingly worse. Part of the problem is their agricultural practices, which are not going to change. They're going to do what works best for their pocketbook. So unless you're going to a local farmer who's doing it the old-fashioned organic way, they're practicing ground cover. They're not having so much runoff. They're doing things in a cyclical manner, which is not just growing food and then throwing sewage on it. They're doing it in a proper way, breaking down the compost, and things are going through its proper process. You're not going to get safe food. So you have to just basically agree that everything you buy is potentially recalled. What are you going to do about it? Good morning, Barb Brownlee. Yeah, dish soap. Yeah, I use sometimes I have to pull out the Dawn or the plant wash, the veggie wash. I use a myriad of things depending on what it is because you cannot trust these things. It's that bad. And telling us there's a recall, what's that going to do? Are you going to throw out food? If you can return it, yes, return it and get your money back. But are you really going to throw out food in this day and age with the costs of food? I'm not. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not. And I think the focus needs to more be on your digestive, your microbiome, things that are going to help build your immune system that are going to prevent you from getting sick from every little thing, because we need to be exposed in some form to bacteria and germs, just not this kind. So, wash your food. They know it's compromised, but they make money until someone publicly is sick and it can't be traced back to, they've been doing that. It's just getting worse. And local farmers are being put out of business. That is the main problem. And there's less and less people involved in terms of competition. There's the main farmers. I had some marshmallows and there was so much powder on them I didn't eat, but a few and tossed the rest in. Yeah. Some of the food. Now I saw somebody who does analysis on food. I'm on his email newsletter, and he mentioned briefly, I didn't watch all of it, but he's talking about coffee and how coffee is contaminated for the most part. And it's not contaminated when I'll tell you the full story that he said. It's not contaminated when it's harvested and packaged. The contamination happens in transit in these shipping containers and taking weeks to come over here. And by the time it comes here, there's traces of mold in the coffee. So there's a lot of his patients that are having mold issues. And I think there's a lot of that, not just in coffee, but in our food system in general. There's a higher amount of mold in people, which is causing what you call it, anti-inflammatory issues, and it's linked to mold, parasites, and such the like. And he also mentioned at the origin, there's a lot of bugs and potentially roaches in the harvest that end up being ground up with the coffee. And a lot of his patients also are having shellfish allergies to certain seafood items. And it's because of the overexposure to the cockroaches in the coffee. Now, if you take a second to recall that they're trying to have all these factories, there's one in Canada, all these factories where they're growing insects for us to eat. And I did a live on that when it came out, and I, went on the internet, did some research, as much as I could. And some people were saying in the scientific community that they feel it's going to cause an increase in those types of allergies because they're part of the same family, they're first cousins. So now it's being noticed that's already happening, and that's just from people who are coffee drinkers are also struggling with these shellfish allergies. So they're promoting us to eat these bugs, and I said before, they haven't done the research. Not everything is for everybody. And when you go into the kosher diet, there are bugs that you can eat, but there's a list that they have that's considered clean, and the other ones are considered dirty. So we need to be very careful of what they're putting in our food. And a lot of the food does have bugs in them because they use them for coloring and all kind of things like that. So we need to take a better stock. I stopped eating pork. I don't really eat pork. So I was looking at, for instance, things that have hidden pork in it, because there are people of the Muslim faith who eat the halal, and the Jewish faith or the Hebrew Israelites that eat kosher. And there are a lot of things that I eat that I did not know. Like, for instance, G Mama mentioned marshmallows. I do have marshmallows in like hot cocoa, or if I'm making a certain kind of thing, you put it in there. I have to now look and make sure that it's a kosher brand or something, or make it yourself, because there's a lot of things that even have pork in it that's not really pork. It could be made from components of them, made from the fat, whatever. It could be made from beef as well, but I can tell you right now, most companies are not going to use, they're going to use the cheap stuff, which is going to be from pork, because pork is readily available across North America, readily available. So now I have to take things to another level, because you think you're not eating the flesh, but you're eating it in other ways, because you don't realize how much things are made with pork additives. Yes. So that's something I'm working on as well, because I'm like, I didn't know there's pork in that. I didn't know there's pork in this. It's for me. If it doesn't bother you, that's fine. But this is what's happening with our food. And you realize, man, this system is corrupt. And, you have to kind of follow what the halal people and the kosher people are doing, because they make products for their, good morning, Howie and CP family. They're making products that cater to their people, because they have certain food restrictions, and they don't play about that kind of stuff. Even the way that meat is raised and processed, they have certain religious and moral standards to how things are done, and that's not being done in the commercial system. So there's coming a point where we have to make some harder decisions of where we spend our money and who we spend our money with. And if you're not finding these local farmers now, it might be more problematic, because the way that this year has started, it's just going to get worse. It's going to get increasingly worse. We're going to get to seed starting, but let's just keep eventually. So this is what I've been dealing with and looking at and trying to, find. But be careful with what has bugs and insects in it, because you may not have any allergies, but you may find that people in your family are getting these shellfish allergies, and you're wondering why. We don't even eat shellfish that much. It's in the food, because they're allowed to have certain amount of bugs and mice and hair and fur, and even in some cases they finding human DNA. So I guess if somebody falls over and ends up in the machine by accident, they just keep the machine moving. The product isn't stopped and just removed. It's just, oh, there's Bob. Oh, sorry, Bob. We'll give your family a gift basket and a condolences card. That's The machines don't stop. They just keep it moving. That's quite disgusting. Let me just see the chat, make sure I didn't miss anything. Yep. This is pork and cereal. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know about the cereal here, Mama, so I'm gonna have to look at that too. Like, you really can't eat anything. So I'm really going back to some ancient grains, like, making my porridge, making, quinoa, bulgur, buckwheat. I'm going back to just ancient grains and making, porridge like, the ancestors did. It's gotten that bad. Yeah. So this is what's happening. It's been a lot of distractions in January and February, a lot of distractions. I had to just take a minute and just sit down and just be like, my God. Like, even though you're not in it, it's just so much stirring the pot and so much anxiety with people, because a lot of people can't afford how much things cost now, never mind with these tariffs. This is ridiculous. And to have somebody who's taking pleasure in annexing a whole nation of people, it's an evil I have not seen in my lifetime. I have not seen it in my lifetime. And this is not a gardening segment right now, but I do have to mention this, because it's been bothering me ever since I saw it, and we've been talking about it here in my friend circle. I didn't know it happened. I didn't watch the inauguration, but when I heard that there was a Nazi salute, not once, not twice, but at least 3 times, and it's just keep it moving. I have a fundamental problem with that. So when I heard, my friend told me, I went and looked it up, and it was, and you can't tell me it wasn't. They even played, people who are commentating played the original person and had it side by side. This is what happened in the inauguration in 2025. We started the new year with this. There's been no apology. There's been no reprimand. There's been no punishment. This is the person that's aligned with this individual. It's going to get real dangerous. And if you've been playing around up until now, you're going to have to shake things up and get it together, because it's serious. This is the person that's aligned with the person in power and has influence in what's going on. And this is what they did in public. They did the salute. You can't tell me it was something different. It was that. So I'm very, very concerned, as should you be very concerned, because it's going to affect all of us. But anyways, we'll get off of that. But keep your eyes open and keep your head on swivel. And the Australian diplomat or government official talked about it and basically said, America is welcoming in fascism. That was his opinion, but I really can't say he's all the way wrong, because of what he saw. He said we all saw it, and don't try to gaslight us to say that we didn't see what we just saw, especially when it was done more than once, so that you don't know it was done. So let's be very careful and mindful in these days, because it's gonna happen so quickly. You're not gonna have time to get ready. So we need to really get ready now. So those of you, okay, and wholesalers, just reminding you all about wholesalers. Some of the ways to shop and buy food more affordably. Good morning, Cheryl. I think I missed you. And if I do miss you guys, no, I'm not intentional. I'm just trying to keep my my topics on my little notepad here covered, because time is so important nowadays. So wholesalers. So I did go to the wholesaler and I bought a very big Napa cabbage for $5. It's huge. I cut a quarter of it, and literally that's enough to feed a family for several weeks. So you're going to have to, well, you don't have to. I'm saying you're going to have to, but I suggest we kind of remind ourselves of some of those struggle meals from back in the day, them struggle meals, the beans and toast with frankfurters or whatever, the cabbage and bully beef, corned beef for those, bully beef and cabbage, bully beef and rice, fry up tuna or chicken salad, and you fry it up. You just do the fry up cabbage and something. Reacquaint yourself with some of these struggle meals, because some of those struggle meals had a lot of nutrients, because we used a lot of cabbage and vegetables because it was cheap, potatoes, grains. They used a lot of those because it was easy to get access to and it could stretch. So just reacquaint yourself with some of them struggle meals so that you can be ready to go. I've been cooking a lot of cabbage. I'm trying to grow cabbage, but man, it's been a time germinating these seeds. Let me just hold on. Keep up with the chat. I wash all my fruits and veggies from the store as well as yeah, I wash my cans before I use them as well. I don't wash them before I put them in the pantry, but I wash them before I cut them open. Um, I wash like the green beans thoroughly. Yeah, I wash them from my own garden, but not as thoroughly because the only thing I'm worried about is maybe some bird doo doo or some bug doo doo. But I'm not worrying about anything besides that. But I do wash my cans before I cut them open. That's just something I wash my pop cans before I open the can. That's something that I just do. I'm mad about the ramen recalls. How do you mess with this? I don't know about. Hey, good morning, Gina. I don't know about ramen noodles, but guys, yeah. So it's a time. It's a dangerous time. It's perilous times. We hear that from when our grandparents. Oh, we're in perilous times. I can tell you right now we're in perilous. I'm laughing, but the laughter is just a coping because it's so horrible that if I really think about it, I'm gonna lock myself in a room and just be in the dark room for weeks. It's so horrible. Anyways, wholesalers. I've mentioned this before. The items there are bigger, yes, but if you're smart, you can make them stretch. And if you plan your meals, again, I've gotten back into from before this incident, back into meal prepping and just having a plan. You will waste less food and you will have more organized and you will have more to eat for your family. That's what it's coming to. But go to the wholesalers. Some of them require you open a business. So you can open any old business on your own online. It could be, knitting 101. It doesn't matter. If your business is feeding people, if you're having barbecues or outings for the community, if you're doing anything to do with food, you have a right to access some of these wholesalers. So just check. Good morning, Shauna. Did I miss anybody? Okay. Find out what they require and join a wholesaler. I'm not talking about the usual Sam's or Costco, which are good also, but the wholesalers give you access to other things that those two stores I mentioned don't have. You get greater selection of produce, you get them in bulk, or you can buy them in smaller bulks. So if I want to buy a whole case of bok choys, I can. If I want to just buy a pack of 3, I can as well. The prices are not always cheaper than the grocery store, but the variety and the selection are there. And if you have an actual business that you just opened, then you get access to tax write-offs. So it's not always about the final price, it's about tax write-off. So just be mindful, but definitely get in line with the wholesalers because when somebody goes shopping for a restaurant or a retail business, they go to the wholesalers. You're not having people and their husband, wife, 5 children, grandmother, aunt, uncle all shopping together. Because when you go to the stores here, it's a family outing. And it's like you can't even maneuver in the store. So sometimes your peace of mind is easier when you just go directly to the wholesaler and buy your rice, your beans, your seasonings, your salt, your dry goods in bulk. I bought a whole bag. Good morning, Jamaica. I bought a whole bag of sea salt. I bought black salt for plant-based meals where you want that eggy taste. I bought regular salt. I bought, you buy your vinegar in bulk. Different kinds of rice, regular rice, parboil, basmati, black rice, wild rice, every kind of rice you can think of. Every kind of flour, every kind of bean. Every kind of bean you can think of. You can buy them in bulk. Your red chili flakes, your bay leaves. You can buy ground up seasoning versus the whole. I like to buy mine whole and grind them fresh so that it lasts longer. I can't even, it's drinks, juices, retail waters in the retail size. They sell pots, pans, baking trays. The list is endless. Please go and check your local wholesalers. Sometimes, if you have a friend who has a business and you give the friend's business phone number, you can just walk in. You don't have to open your own business, but it's not hard to open a business. Your YouTube is a business. If you have a channel, you can open your official business under that name. And if you're doing things that relate to food, which we all do, we can, have gatherings, we can give to the community. you can use your business to get those things. So don't wait until things go further left. Get that set up right now, in my opinion. That's my suggestion. So don't just be stuck with the stores and the Sam's and the Costco's. Get connected to the wholesalers. Algorithms come in many forms, as it must be true. Mm-hmm. This is, oh, good morning. I think I missed you, Garden Doll. Eating so as close to the earth as I can. Began at 12 years old. I'm just now, do you, no judgment. Yeah, food is political. So most of us in this chat that I see, we grow food, whether you have a gardening channel or not. I know from what I've watched on the content, you guys are doing your thing. I've been thinking about quail heavily for the last few months. I've been thinking about it for more than a year, but the last, I would say from November, just quail on the brain, quail on the brain. Anybody who has a video about quail, I'm watching the video about quail. I saw it this morning. I watched Jamaica's video about quail versus chicken, and just watching. And then when what happened? This is what happened in the recent months, and I have to laugh because God's timing is always perfect. I've been looking for quail, and I know how to get the quail. That wasn't the problem. The problem was reliable food source, because there's no point of bringing in quail and you have nothing to feed them. So I could not find, wild game bird feed, as you guys see in your local stores, Ace and Tractor Supply. You have designed food for them. I could not find anything here. All of a sudden, I went on the internet and I'm looking for it again. And this was probably early January. All of a sudden, a store came up. Not just a store, it's a chain of stores with 7 to 8 stores right in the area that I go to the other store to. And I've never seen the store. I've never heard of this store. It never popped up before. I haven't driven by and seen it. No way, no how. Did not know that this store even existed. Looked on the website. What do they have? Game bird feed. So now I have at least a source of game bird feed. I do know that I can give them turkey feed, but I did not see anything in my sort of local store that would provide what I needed. Because again, you have to have reliable food. Last week, I went to go restock on some food. I went to my local store, and this young gentleman I haven't seen him before, but he's like, "Oh, do you need help with anything?" I said, "Yes, I actually do. I'm looking for quail food. I'm going to try to get quail, but I haven't seen any food here before." He goes, "Oh, follow me." So he took me to the turkey section. He goes, "This food labeled here is for quail, turkey, and pheasants, but it's not labeled that way." He goes, "Here's the layer feed and here's the starter feed." I'm like, "Oh," got the prices, took some notes, got my chicken food, came home. So now I have 2 sources of quail food. I also found out online that I know of a farm. I think most of you guys may know it. I think Black's Tropical was the first one who told me about it, and I've been following them on YouTube. My Shire farm, but they're a U.S. farm. I found some Canadian farms. This is a long story, but again, they each have points. Each stage of the story has points. Take what you need and whatever. So my Shire Farms is excellent. I watch them and I learned a lot about quail from them. And all of a sudden now, after I found some local suppliers and people, actual farms, the pricing of my Shire is better. And they have a Canadian tab on their website that they have a local Canadian farmer that will sell the My Shire eggs in Canada. And it's about $26 for 30 eggs of the jumbo quails. Do you raise quails? Yes, about almost identical, unbiased, almost. There's a few differences, but quail and chicken are very similar. And even turkey, because ask Jamaica, she got all 3 over there. And no, yeah, she does have all 3. I was gonna say no, but she does. She got quail recently. And I'm lost now. I'm like, squirrel. So yeah. So I got the food, that's fine. So now Maya Shire has 30 eggs for $26. The Canadian ones that I found had 12 eggs for $26. So obviously, the 30 eggs is a better deal. So I'm ready to move forward. This week, all of a sudden, I went on my other store. It's called PV Mart. PV Mart is a subsidiary of Ace Hardware, but it's a Canadian. It was taken over. The US side did not want to do the Canadian branch anymore. So the Canadian side was separated and it was Canadian owned. They have 90 stores Canada wide. They're shutting down. So I went online to get the prices again. No website. It just says closing down, so much percent off, you know, come in person. There's no more website with all their products. I'm like, what? This store has been a main staple for homesteaders. Now, I didn't know about the store because I wasn't homesteading, so I didn't know what it was, but it's a big deal. And then they were only going to close certain stores. They're closing the entire Canadian operation. The point of the story now, which is not a point, it's questions. What is going on? What is going on? You're closed. If I didn't find this new store with 7 locations, I would be up the creek because PV Mart has more selection of stuff. So I'm going to go to them in the next few weeks. The different ones, they're far away, but I'm going to try to pop in and see what they have because I need to stock up on certain things because I'm not going to get them anymore, including jars because they're probably going to clear out their whole canning section and all that kind of stuff. But this is what's happening over here. Either farming is not as popular as it was before, which I think that's what's happening. The homesteading thing is not as much as before. People who are buying homes out of the city are city people who are just want to live in the country because of the whole pandemic where you can work from home now. So a lot of people are moving out into these lovely areas, but the lifestyle that they were living before the homesteading is not there. And these stores are not being supported anymore how they were, and they're shutting it down. So this to me is indicative of a bigger problem. I don't know what's happening over there. Maybe you guys don't have that problem because you're in a more remote area and then farming is still a big thing. But over here, they're shutting it all down. That's definitely going to affect access to certain things. So thank God I found the other store, but at any given point in time, things can be shut down either the store level or the manufacturer. They can't afford to keep pushing out these products. So you need to keep your eyes open because before you know it, a store could be gone or a brand could be completely gone. Because of the cost of things, the competition is getting less and less. And it's only a few major companies that are really running the show. Let me see what Howie said. Yeah, I know you have quail. They're very resilient. So you can hunt them exactly, catch a few and eat them for dinner. So this is what I'm doing over here. So it's funny, it's been on my mind, like quail, why can't I get the quail off my damn mind? This is like, and this is why, because God knows what's coming around the corner. And what's coming around the corner is going to be rough. And if you're one of the people who don't follow the crowd, it's going to be even more difficult for you. Let's tell the truth. Let me get some water. 1 second. Commercial break. Okay, back. Good morning, Hudson. Okay, so the next thing now is we'll start with seed stuff and getting ready for the spring season. I'll drop the link again in case you guys want to add in some feedback in terms of what you're experiencing and what you experienced. And Okay. So, seed starting. We talked about cleaning your equipment at the beginning of the season, and that's still very important. So, you need to clean your equipment, which means your seed starting trays, your seed starting containers, um, your pots, your mixing bowls that you mix soil in, whatever you're using. You do need to clean it with some kind of cleaning solution. Depending on your own personal preferences, that will be something different. But you can't just use water. You're going to need to have some kind of soap solution. You can use, natural, Castile soap. You can use dish soap because sometimes I have to use dish soap because you're finding that there's problems with your grow every time, and you need to do something more disinfecting. You can use cleaning vinegar, which is about 5% acidity, if not 6, but look it up yourself. You can use bleach, um, but you need to use something that has a high uh, rate of cleaning power. There are types of bleaches that you use that are not really potent for cleaning. It has the bleach smell, but it's not going to clean the bacteria and the viruses off of your equipment. So you need to check what you're using and what the solution is. Some things have to be diluted, some things can be used straight, depending on what it is. Because if you don't clean the bacteria off of your items and you put soil in it, you might find that your seedlings aren't doing well, or you're getting a lot of dampening off. There's always some kind of problem. That's especially more prevalent when it comes to hydroponics. I have 2 units that I'm doing for WIG, and they're giving me a lot of problems. They were cleaned, but obviously there may be a little part that wasn't cleaned. I'm thinking that maybe it could be the hoses in there, because some people, when I'm thinking back, when they do their DIY hydroponics, they change the hoses frequently. They don't even bother clean the hoses that pump the air into the water or anything like that. They just change them out very frequently, and that is probably what's going on, because it's just a problem. I put peroxide in the water again today in the tank, so I'm hoping that the new seeds that I just dropped will germinate. I did buy a new unit. I saw it. It's on my Instagram. I saw it on clearance. I picked it up just for, the sake of it. I planted some seeds right away. I got them plugged into the unit, I would say yesterday. I need one thing I'm laughing about, anybody who's an indoor gardener, 'cause I was laughing at Fifi's video in the garage. You're gonna see about 25 extension cords in another extension cord in another extension cord, and the whole place is gonna be full of orange and white and blue and red industrial extension cords. And that's what it's turning into over here. I had to buy another extension cord to reach to plug in that unit to get into the other unit. So it's nothing but extension cords. So welcome to indoor growing, because you're going to have a lot of extension cords to plug in the lights and the units. Whether you're growing in hydroponic or in soil, you're going to have to be plugging in lights, maybe even heaters and fans, and you're going to have 50 million extension cords. So make sure that your wiring is done properly, because you might cause more problems. Anyway, so I had to buy another extension cord. That unit is already growing. I've had a lot of problems growing red lettuce, but this new variety I got, the Merlot, it germinated already. So something's not right with the other unit, because something's wrong. And I used my own sponges. I did not use the sponges that came with Aero Garden. I used my own sponges and stuff, and it germinated. So something is a little bit off in that other unit. So I'm gonna have to, I put more seeds. If they grow, fine. If it doesn't grow this time, I'm gonna dump all that water out and wash it again and start fresh, and sanitize those sponges again and see if I can use them again. But this is becoming a problem. So you have to clean your equipment. You have to clean it. Doesn't matter how clean you think you are. There's bacteria that forms on stuff. You need to make sure that they've been freshly cleaned. Um, Let me see here. Um, Wash your utensils, wipe with alcohol. It takes, yes, you have to. Some people think, I wash my tweezers that I use for my planting more than just at the beginning of the season. I wash them and wipe them down maybe weekly. I have scissors that I use indoors for that. I have to wipe my scissors down with alcohol. I have to, or peroxide, whatever you want to use. You have to be doing those things regularly. I wipe down the surface of the grow. I wipe down the pod in case it's touching the bottom somehow. You have to keep it extra clean. And people will say, well, why? because you don't have nature doing things for you. It's not a balance. You are creating plants in a sterile environment, which requires you to be the wind, the sun, the bacteria, the microbiome. You have to be everything that would be happening in nature and working on your behalf that you don't realize. You have to be all those things, because if there's another bacteria that eats the other one, it's all balanced, but there's no balance. So all it does is create a breeding ground for the bad things to happen, because there's no good. You have to cover every avenue. So you need to start wiping everything down. When you start to go and check on your plants and you're harvesting your plants, and you harvest them with scissors or even your hands, you wash your hands first. Make sure your hands are washed. If you have long nails, make sure you wash under your nails, and make sure your scissors or whatever you're using, or if you're using a knife, that's fine as well. Make sure the knife is clean, because any little thing will start to spread and make your plants just wreak havoc on all your plants. And if it spreads, it can hop from one thing to another. So you need to make sure you're clean. Some people don't do all this and they're fine. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they just have, I don't know. But I've been having a lot of problems this season, and I did nothing different. But there could be some bacteria hidden in the hosing or something very small. I did wash the filters, but I'm not getting germination. And once you start seeing little mold spores on your sponges, I did. I dipped them all in peroxide and I put them in the water just to kill it and see if I can continue growing. But if it doesn't work, I'm gonna have to take everything out, wash everything over again, and start from scratch. And this is the problem, not a problem. This is the reality of hydroponics. Not a problem. It's just the reality, because some of us are in colder climates and we don't have any other options. I do have some soil in the house that has been sanitized and I grow inside with. But just to bring in dirt willy-nilly into your house, we already know what happened to me in 2022. Gnats everywhere. Some people don't mind the gnats. I guess you don't mind, but I just cannot take the gnats and the bugs in the house. It makes it very disgusting for me. And I don't even want to be like, you're talking and they're flying in your face, up your nose, or just always in your face. Gnats. You're on the computer, they're flying out, in your eye. It's disgusting for me. If you don't care, that's fine with you. But you have to be careful what soil you bring into the house. Let me see. Oh, I missed Howie's comment. Some quail eggs you buy will give you quail chicks if they're fertilized. Yeah, eggs are very small but tasty. Flocks of 50 are common that travel to and from where you've. Oh, air pellet gun to harvest. Oh yeah, if you're hunting them, yeah. I'll have them in a cage so I can just basically just I'll do that. But yeah, I have never seen quail in the wild over here. Maybe it's just I'm in the city, that's how it is. We don't have it, but maybe in the further country, yeah, because we have pheasants and turkeys and quail. I know we have them in Canada. In Ontario, that is. I know we have them. But that's my next thing is quail. I'm just looking also to get some automated systems in place so that I can have it running, so that when I'm traveling, food and water is still being dispensed and someone can come over and collect the eggs and just check on them daily. Let me see what I missed. Hey, ARD. So you're flying from Tokyo to the Bay. Okay, you're going back home. So that's what I'm talking about. We talked about seed addicts last time. And we laughed, and some people were like, how dare you? But anyways, the amount of money that we're spending on seeds in some cases is excessive. Now, I know we love gardening, we love growing. Don't get me wrong. But people who are maybe newer may feel that you have to buy 1,000,001 seeds and you have to buy them from these huge companies and I have to spend. No, no, no. You can go to your local library and get seeds. I have in the last 2 years, when I found out about it, based on somebody did a video on it. I think it was Sina Renee. I believe it was Sina Renee, if I'm not mistaken, but she hasn't really been, she's around, but she hasn't pumped out any videos. But she was the one who mentioned it. I think it was her. So I went and checked, and lo and behold, there's a program at my library. So I just dropped off their seeds from last season. I returned them back last week to the library, the packs that I took from them, and I gave them a whole bunch of extra that I harvested from my stuff. So I got the Galaxy tomato, the white beefsteak, the Amish paste, and something else. Can't remember now, but I had given them back what they gave me, plus I gave them a whole bunch extra. And I also give them some cayenne pepper and something else that I had, because I'm just harvesting seeds left and right. And that's what we need to tell people. You can harvest your own seeds. If you do buy seeds, you don't need to buy them every year. I got those seeds from the library, and I have enough seeds from my harvest from last year. I don't need to buy dark galaxy ever again, white beefsteak ever again. So let's not I know we love seeds, but let's not make people believe that you got to buy. Oh, thank you, AR. Didn't even see that. Let me put that up. You don't have to spend a lot of money on seeds. We are just addicted to seeds. And GT, Mike's Chaotic, CC. I think Nikki's in that pile too. We just love seeds, 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 seeds. Every minute with seed. Then we have seed miss. I think Broke Farmers in that club too. We have a meeting every Wednesday at 9 a.m. for the Seeds Addicts Anonymous. They're not so anonymous. And seeds, seeds. Literally. So people think, oh, I gotta buy this. No, you don't. You can go to Dollar Tree. We have Dollarama. You can go to a store called Menards that I haven't been to, but Renaissance goes there all the time and buys a whole bunch of Menards seeds. So does Mike's Chaotic. You can get seeds from people. You can go to the grocery store and buy tomato and buy cucumber and buy a squash and take out the seeds from those produce yourself and put them neatly, clean them up, dry them up, and those are your seeds to grow from. You do not have to spend $5 a pack for seeds. $5 US, may I add. You don't have to do it. So let's we are recovering addicts, and we're not going to be doing that as much. You can swap seeds. That's what Seedmas is for, is to swap seeds of people who maybe didn't like what they grew and they're not going to grow that ever again in this life, and they want to share it. Don't ask Broke, because he's going to give you pure kohlrabi. No, he's going to give you arugula and beets. If you don't want arugula and beets, don't ask Broke Farmer for any seeds, because that's all he's going to give you. He's clearing out every beet and every arugula. He doesn't want those two. And I think Cece got lima beans from Jegs, and she's like, I don't want lima beans. And he gave her lima beans. That's hilarious. Anyways, you can get seeds from people. That's what you need to do. So this expensive cost doesn't have to exist. It doesn't have to exist. If you want to know more about hydroponics, there was I'll have to share it on my community tab, but I know GT did a live with G Mama that I missed, and I actually just watched it this week. Very informative, especially when it talked about, hey Psalms, talked about the rock wool, because I was wondering if I need to use rock wool, and they're like, they didn't like it. They'll tell you different tips. I think G Mama also talked on the Christmas live, so I'll share that again, because there's some different lives where we talked about hydroponics that may be helpful for those of you who need to do hydroponics. But even though I grow indoors, nothing can take away from good old-fashioned in the soil, hands in the dirt, hands in the grow pots, and growing in the soil. I don't care how much we love growing indoors and hydroponics. There's something about growing outdoors in nature that we all need to participate in, whether you have a long season or a growing season, because you get more out of it than you realize. Being out in the fresh air, in the sun, is helpful to humanity. Being out there when the birds are chirping is helpful to humanity. I did not even realize that because they're so annoying in the morning when they're at your window chirping and you're like, shut up. But they actually help wake up the plants and wake up, germination. If I'm not mistaken, there's something that the bird it releases a frequency in the atmosphere. It's something that helps you and helps your mindset and helps your health. So yes, I grow indoors, but as soon as spring hits, I'm going to be outside, and my indoor garden will just be fully harvested or cut in half, and things that are still going can go, but it's going to be outside. So that's what I think we can all agree to. Oh, is he go? Okay, see, take care, Howie. You need to make sure that you're learning both. Good morning, she said. There's no one way to grow food. Also, so seed addicts, seed cleaning. I've been seeing a lot of people talking. I think I heard it from Broke Farmer first. Bootstraps. I never heard of them before, but now I'm hearing them from other people as well. is a very durable and thick tray and seed starting containers. They're very durable. They're easy to wash and reuse versus some of these cheap stuff. So if you're ready to upgrade your equipment, that is possibly a good avenue to go to. I was looking at them today on Amazon. They have an Amazon that I can order from. And it's sometimes better to buy better equipment because when you're rewashing this cheap stuff, it's literally like almost like tin. It's so cheap and flimsy. It's so disgusting. And that's probably leaching into our soil, which is leaching into our seedlings, which is leaching into our food. So I'm at a stage now where I bought some better containers last year, but they're circular. When you have the square ones, you can fit more in the tray and there's less waste. There's no wasted space actually, and everything is filled up nicely, which gives you more bang for your buck. And your trays are full. It's all being well lit under the grow station. That's what is better, I think. So I'm probably going to upgrade some of my seed containers, not the tray. The tray I don't really care about. I care about the actual seed container and I'll bottom water, and that's what I'm going to do. The one thing that most of us who grow food can tell you, when you cheap on those seed starting trays, you end up buying it 2 and 3 and 10 times. And it's sometimes better just to, after a couple of years, just bite the bullet and buy good quality seed starting equipment. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting money at the dollar stores, and then you're just wasting money. So spend the money wisely. That's one thing we can say with the seed starting. And buy a sprayer, a spritzer, and just mist your plants. Don't try to use a jug. You're going to overwater, you're going to splash. It's just going to be more of a problem. Invest in a mister. It costs $4 to $5 maybe, or spray bottle, and have a nice misting because you don't want to oversaturate your plants. Sometimes it's up and down. It's a hard balance. So don't skimp on these cheap equipment. Buy a good spray gun because the cheap ones get clogged up so fast. Buy a decent one, decent trays, decent seed starting equipment, tweezers, scissors, those kind of things. Uh, and buy good quality marker to label your plants and a good quality plant tags because these plant tags can be reused year after year. All you have to do is wipe it. Hey, good morning, you grow. Thank you for the super sticker. You have to wipe them down. I do not use popsicle sticks. I've heard this from, back in the day. That may work outside in nature where the breeze can kind of dry them out. In your house, you're asking for mold. Don't use no popsicle sticks. I even use toothpicks. I had to get the bamboo ones because they will get moldy. So I use plastic. You may not like plastic. Good morning, Shelly. And anybody I missed, I didn't see you. So don't be upset. Let me see what G Mama just said. I'm upgrading my my outdoor pots this season since my plants are getting bigger. Me too. They're getting bigger and they need more space, and the cheap ones ain't working. Arugula beets and some and the sun also, yes, vitamin D. There's a lot that you get from gardening outside. So do not ever think because some of us do hydro that we're not. No, outdoor is number 1, hydro is number 2. It helps you stretch your growing, especially in a colder climate like I'm in. Growing indoors in the garage helps you feed yourself and not rely on the stores. And it increases the quality of the food because you're growing it yourself. Wood is not good in soil, period. But people, use toothpicks and label your plants. Lie. Get a good marker, good tags, and clean them. At the end of your growing season, wipe them down before you put them in the new pots, wipe them down because it's nothing but problems if you don't keep your stuff clean indoors, even if you're doing it in soil. You don't want any bacteria because remember, you don't have nature helping you. You're doing it yourself. Nothing is wrong with that. I promote it. I think most of you did your season side already. I'm doing mine this week and I have a schedule of what I'm planting when because I notice if I start some things too early and I have nowhere outside to plant them because the outside is not warm enough yet, I have to baby more plants indoors and they start to overcrowd each other and shadow each other out. So there is a timing that's more feasible for most of us, depending on your zone. Again, I can't give you a direct answer, but we can certainly guide you through. Some plants grow very quickly, like beans and even tomatoes. So you don't need to start them overly early. Early so that you can transplant them right at your last frost date, but not early where you literally have these trees in your house and it's all crowding each other out. And it's very hard to manage when you're actually planting like 100 plants and you have shelves in my living room. You have shelves plus you have your indoor hydroponics. It's very hard to manage. It's not impossible, but I'm just suggesting that you time your plants appropriately. Things that need more time, like your hot peppers, certain bell peppers, you start those ones early. But things that don't need to be started that early, you time it better so that by the time you start the second batch, your lettuce and your spinach is outside because they can take a little frost. Your brassicas can go outside. Then you create more space to do your watermelons, your tomatoes, and maybe your beans. And your beans you can direct sow anyways. So just learn about that. Good morning, Jova. And if I missed anybody again, my apologies. So the next thing to talk about is so hydro cleaning, seed tray cleaning, seed addictions. Okay, the next thing is a schedule. It's hard to answer this question, but there are things available online that you can search. Now, when you do your search on the internet, if your computer is already set up with your your region, your postal code, your zip code, if it has the IP address is known, it will give you answers based on where you're searching from. So when I put it in this my search, it knows where I am. It knows I'm in Ontario. It knows where I am. And the answers that it's giving me is pertaining to what is going to affect me. So you're going to have to do your own searches because it's hard to go into a chat and ask people, when do I plant my watermelon? Because now we're going to have to ask you 10 questions because every answer that we give you has to have context. So, gently saying you need to do some of your own research and you need to do some searches on the internet and let, Google Schmoogle guide you based on the information that you're inputting because it's not that simple. It's not hard, but it's not that simple. The first thing to do is use Google. Second thing is you can use the Farmer's Almanac. Go on there, you put in your zip code, your postal code, it will tell you your grow zone. That's one of the first things that you need to understand is what grow zone are you in? Yes, I am aware that some people don't really go by the grow zone. They don't believe it's really an important thing. And in many cases, they are correct. It's not really a thing, but it gives people right away an idea of what kind of climate you may have, what kind of region you may be in. But it's not all inclusive. You have to kind of still know your last frost date and your first frost date. Because we're entering spring, everybody is talking about the last frost date so that they can plant their stuff directly outside and transplant their seedlings outside without a risk of frost and damage. But those of us who've been gardening for a while understand that certain plants can handle a frost, and those plants will be put out before my last frost date. Lettuce, spinach can go outside, and brassicas. Now, if it's very concerning, I may put a water bottle, like, all those bottles that you keep or whatever, the winter sowing. You may put jugs on top of them or a plastic cloche to kind of give it a greenhouse effect if you're really concerned. But those plants can go outside early because I know I've done it. You can plant them early and they thrive better in the cool. Cilantro likes coolness, parsley, they like the coolness. So as long as you cover them up with some plastic and protect them, they will be fine. But you need to know your last frost date. For me, that's going to be mid-May. It's just understood in my zone that May 2-4 weekend is when you plant your stuff outside. So your tomatoes and all your stuff can go outside. Okra, usually, but the last season, it was so cool that my okra struggled. I think it's best for any gardener, new and advanced, to have a list of things that you would like to plant. Because when you don't have a plan, it may be overwhelming and very confusing. Now, you don't have to stick to the plan. It's just a blueprint. You can still be very flexible, but you need to start with what you're going to grow. And people love to ask, what's the easiest thing to grow? It's like asking me, what child is the easiest to raise? It depends. It depends. I don't know. Maybe you have a rude child and she has a nice, I don't know. Like, even parents can't share tips because everybody is different. Every parent is different. Every child is different. So you can't really ask these blanket questions. But the first thing to do is, what do you like to eat? It doesn't matter what's easier to grow. If you don't like to eat it, you don't cook it anyways. Why am I going to recommend that you eat okra? Maybe you hate okra. Some people don't like it. If you like certain vegetables and you're prone to buying them and you're prone to cooking them, those are the most important ones that you should put on your list because you're actually going to enjoy them. And when you cook them and taste the difference, it's going to be mind blowing. Now, easiest to grow, it depends on where you are, but generally speaking, I don't think anybody can mess up lettuce. I don't think lettuce is hard to grow. I don't think tomatoes are hard to germinate. Tomatoes are pretty much, you can just throw the seeds in the ground and they'll come up somehow. Ask me how I know. I had several plants that popped up from the chicken run that I didn't even plant, and they gave me so much tomatoes, Roma cherry, that it wasn't even funny. So those are not hard to grow, but I think your focus should be, what do I like to eat? What did you grow up eating? Maybe you don't eat it, but you grow up eating that. You do enjoy collard greens. People like Swiss chard. Like, what do you like? Focus on that. And there's different varieties of many of those same plants. There's at least 3 varieties of collard greens that I know about. The Georgia collards, there's regular collards. I think there's greasy or something else. And there's, so even that, if you grow 4 different varieties of collards, that could be a start. And they're very resilient and you can eat from them for months and months. So focus on, what do I like to eat? What do I like to grow? Would I like to grow actually? And how much space do I have? Because maybe you are literally only on a balcony and that's the only space you have. And you have to be very particular because I don't have a lot of space. Maybe you want to just grow one of each or just the same thing across your balcony and that's it. And that's perfectly fine because that's fitting your personal needs. It's not about anybody else, it's about your garden and what's going to meet your family needs. You need to focus on that. Don't get lost in the sauce and think that you have to grow what everybody else is doing when they have 5 acres and you only have a little balcony. Don't worry about that. Good morning, Shelley. Understanding my grow zone is extremely, exactly. And even in your grow zone, you do have microclimates. So the first thing is Farmer's Almanac, Google Schmoogle. What's my grow zone? What's my last frost date? Because we're all starting our spring gardens. That's the most important thing. Whatever seed you get from whatever seed company will have some basic information on the back of the pack. Some of them have a lot of information about the history of the plant, where it's from, ideal conditions. Some have bare minimum, but you'll see that it'll tell you how many days to germination. So from planting it to popping out the soil, germination, how many days, how deep to plant it, how many inches apart to plant the plant so that has enough space to grow. Some may tell you it can need 4 to 8 hours of sunlight. So then okay, it can take shade. It doesn't have to be in the direct sun, depending on where your garden faces or your balcony faces. That will affect it. But even if it does affect it, just plant. Who cares? If it doesn't work out, you're going to learn, and that's going to teach you more than being so perfect and following all these rules. Forget the rules. You are going to make mistakes. That's going to teach you more than just following somebody else's blueprint. But it'll tell you that. It'll tell you sometimes how many days to maturation, which means from planting it to eating it, how many days does it take to become a fully mature plant? Some things are 50 days, some things are much longer. So depending on that, that will determine when you're going to plant stuff, maybe even where in your garden you're going to plant it, and if it's going to be worthwhile planting in the first place. Because if you're in a shorter grow season and the plant takes 100 days to become mature, it may not be worth it. You may try it, or you have to maybe give it a grow tent in the garden to start extra early to get it really going to transplant it. But these are going to affect your decisions. So as a beginner, it doesn't matter about asking in a group, when do I start X or Y plant? What you need to understand is, when's my last frost date? And if my last frost date for me is May 19th, May 18th, 19th, That means if I have a plant that takes 100 days to come to maturity, just off the top of my head, that means I have to start probably dropping seeds inside maybe by March, because I need to give it maybe April, maybe even April, but I need to give it enough time that I can harvest it by August. Because if it's not ready to go by August, I may not get a harvest. Now, if the weather is favorable and it's still warm in September, which does happen many times, I may have more time, but I have to set my deadline of the 100 days to harvest needs to be at the latest in August. And then I go backwards and count back 100 days. Now, if you're good with Excel, Excel can do it for you. You can go on there and find free spreadsheets of when to plant my harvest. And people have created spreadsheets that you can just punch in your last frost date, and the preset plants on their list will automatically shift and tell you when you need to plant it for your last frost date. These spreadsheets don't ask you for the zone because the zone is irrelevant. When is your last frost date? So we focus a lot on grow zones, but in many ways it's restricting people. It's good to know, and I do know my zone, it does help, but it also can be very restrictive, as in, oh, what can I grow in my zone? It doesn't matter what zone you're in. It matters your temperature. So a lot of times for thus those of us who are a bit more advanced, we may start to look now at our temperature, the temperature charts for the last 3 to 5 years to tell you the highs and the extreme lows. So you can plan what you're going to grow in your growing season based on the median temperature, because the zone is actually irrelevant. As long as the plant is getting enough time and enough of the ideal weather, you can grow. Like I can grow okra over here, but I do have to start them indoors early enough that I can get the peak summer weather when they're really going to start to shoot up and put out flowers and give me food. And so that I have enough time to harvest and enough time to let a few of the pods go to seed. Because last summer, I did not have hardly any pods. The weather and those fires were causing a lot of smoke and cloudiness. So I did not get the intense heat because of outside factors that I could not control. The fires, the smoke, all that stuff affected my hot climates. Tomatoes were okay, but the okra and the hot peppers struggled. And I did not have a good harvest to collect seeds. So there are some things that I'm going to plant again this year, not because I want to plant them, because I want to focus on maybe 1 or 2 okra, for instance, not 3 varieties and 4 varieties, but I have to plant all of them because I did not get a good seed harvest at all last year. So take these things into effect. So, yeah, I think I sent you a spreadsheet too, G Mama. I think, but yeah, once you put in your own last frost, it will change all the preset dates in the spreadsheet, and you know when to plant your stuff. Now, for the spreadsheets that I use, you don't have to put everything on the spreadsheet. Like a pepper is a pepper is a pepper. But for me personally, I do put every pepper that I'm growing, because what I do for myself is I put in the other column, how many of that plant am I going to plant? So I put down my cayenne pepper, jalapeno, big Jim. I put down the African hot pepper, bell peppers, and I'm doing Lasia pepper for the first time. I list them all down because I like to put down how many I'm going to start as my seed start so I can keep track. I also have a column for the outdoor garden at my parents' house that is separate, and I also do the seeds for them. So it keeps me on track of, okay, I need 6 of these, 6 of those, 4 of these, for me personally, because I like to be organized. For you, if you don't care, no problem. But it helps me when you're starting a lot of seeds and for seeds for other people. And it also gives us a chance to meet as a family and decide from last year's list, did you like the amount of stuff that we grew? Sometimes they say, yes, we want more. Sometimes we don't want it at all, 0, or grow less. And each year we readjust our numbers. So we had a meeting slightly, but we have to have another meeting. I'm going to go over the numbers with them from 2024. And on the 2025 spreadsheet, I'm going to increase, decrease, or remove put 0. Hey, Cece, good morning. Because for me, it helps me keep track. It also lets us see from year to year what we're enjoying to eat. And they love the dark. I love the dark galaxy tomato. That's going to be a main staple. This year, I am growing the carbon tomato for the first time. I've heard nothing but positive reviews on that tomato. So I got it and I'm going to plant it. And the first thing to do always when you plant a new crop and you get an excellent crop, keep your seeds. Keep your seeds and make sure you have seeds galore. Let me see here. People hesitate to start a garden due to choices like zone, soil, and plant selection, but it's not as complicated as it seems. Just start small. Exactly. I think people get confused. This is good information to know. Don't get me wrong, the zone and stuff, but I think it's tying people up and letting them feel like, what do I do? Where to start? Doesn't matter. When is your last frost date? What is your temperature chart? Check with your city. Was you able to get? Yeah, I got it from the library, CC. I got it from the library. The library has a lot of seeds. It's basically seed miss, but for your own locale. People donate seeds and they swap amongst each other through the library. And the library is keeping track of the seeds and they're making sure that there are, what's the word I'm talking about? Like almost like climatized to your zone or your area through open pollination. They're ensuring that there's a seed library and access to seeds, secondly, but variety of seeds that do well in our local area. Local area could be city and it could be as wide as the whole province. I grew it, but it didn't turn, the top was dark, and the bottom was vibrant red. It was like a nice two-tone. And it was so tasty. Oh my God. And seeds, has so many seeds inside. Literally, every time I cut a tomato, I'm going to sidebar again, but this is also part of seeds and being a new gardener. But when you're harvesting your seeds, for me, I learned a lot from You Grow Row because I was that person that would put the seeds on a napkin and then I would give you seeds with pieces of napkin on the seed. And I thought I was doing such a great thing. And she was like, that's kind of ghetto. But she didn't say it was ghetto, but she kind of said, like, you want to up your seed harvesting to make it look more presentable. But mine had napkins stuck onto them because I was, trying to harvest the seeds and I didn't know really how to do it properly. Good morning, Boucher. And then I put them on wax paper, but then it was kind of stuck on the wax paper too. Then I had to scrape them off. It was kind of ghetto, but I've learned. So they soak their seeds and I soak them now and I soak them with a bit of chlorine because she said it keeps the seeds from having bacteria, which is another way how you get bacteria is come from dirty seeds. So now I learned. And then I dried them properly. And then now the seeds look much better. So when I go to the library, my seeds don't look ghetto. They look very high class, like, you're getting it from a professional company with the little, envelopes and they're labeled nicely. I even put down germination days and days to harvest and I give them some nice, so my seeds are looking really good. But anyways, certain tomatoes, when you cut them, the seeds just literally pop out. So I don't wait until, okay, I'm going to harvest seeds now. And I just, no, every time I cut a tomato, I put some seeds in a strainer. I got like those small strainers. I have a whole bunch and I put tape on it and label the type of tomato. I rinse them out. I let them dry. I rinse them again. I let them dry. And then if I have to, I put them in a bottle and soak them off. But it's all labeled. So throughout the season, I'm washing and harvesting seeds. And that has become less pressure for me because the tomato seeds are constantly being harvested throughout in rotation as I cut a nice juicy tomato and I'm having a tomato sandwich with some cheese and garlic sprinkled on top and some lettuce with lots of butter with a good quality bread. I'm harvesting the seeds. The white beefsteak, oh my God, that was a nice tomato. But yeah, so now, now I'm not looking ghetto. But ferment, I thought it was so complicated. It's not complicated to ferment your seeds. And this is back to the cleaning and being clean. If your seeds have bacteria on them, that causes problems in your grow. And that reminds me, that could be the problem. But I don't think my hydro, that's the problem because I did not use my own seeds. I used the seeds from the pack, but it still could be harboring bacteria. So this is the complicatedness of growing. But usually in soil, I have never had a problem with seeds with paper towel on them. I guess the soil and the balance does what it has to do. But in hydro, the seeds that you use can cause problems. So don't worry. You learn as you go. Whatever doesn't work out, not a problem. You learn from your mistakes and you do better the next time. It's not about being perfect. It's just about being consistent and applying the knowledge. Yep, I ferment my seeds and use hydrogen peroxide because bleach irritates me. Yes, I don't even use bleach. You know why? Because my water is so bleachy. The tap water is so chlorinated, anyways, that to me, that's enough chlorine. And that's what I did. I did not add any additional bleach because my water is chlorinated heavily. And again, based on where you are, if you're using well water, for goodness sake, then you may need to add bleach or peroxide because it's a different circumstance. So you have to apply the information to your own circumstance. Because when I run my tap, I can smell the chlorine. So I don't need to add bleach to the water. The tap water, when I wash them and soak them, is enough to clean them when you harvest your seeds. And I think that's better in the long run. Hey, TLC, good morning. I think that's better in the long run because when you're giving people seeds, which Ro mentioned, you're giving people seeds and you're sending them across, you want them to have the best success possible. And the way in which you harvest your seeds in some of the plants can affect their success and even your own success when you're replanting seeds. Oh no, you don't have to. It's more so when you're I do that now, CC, for when I'm giving away seeds because I don't know what conditions the person's going to be having when they plant my seeds. And to be honest, it does harbor bacteria because sometimes you use seeds way down the line. I have seeds from my parents and they're still there and they would still grow probably fine because they're from that same garden. But hydroponics, I'm not sure. And giving them away to people, I'm not sure. So I'm just doing it that way because just in case. But it's not complicated. It's just rinsing them off properly, thoroughly. My squash seeds, pumpkin seeds, zucchini, that's non-existent. What I'm saying does not apply to those kind of seeds. I don't think there's any way you can fail at growing a squash, pumpkin, zucchini, or any kind of bean because they just grow so quickly and germinate so easily. But some of the more delicate seeds, tomatoes, eggplant, I do that for. I don't do it for lettuces because there's no need to do it for lettuce. My okra, I do rinse them off because I did find on my own experience, I dried the pod thoroughly. I'm talking it was dry. I put the seeds out. I put them in bags, plastic bags, mind you, because sometimes now I use paper because it's paper envelopes because it's cleaner. And those okra seeds got moldy. They did. So it kind of scared me from even like giving away seeds because I'm like, if the seeds, like I dried the pod dry as a crisp, and it still got moldy. So I don't know what happened, but the potential is there. And if there's mold, there's bacteria. If there's bacteria, that's going to jeopardize your germination and jeopardize your seed starting. So it all depends on where you are because some of us are in environments that are very humid and that will affect how your seeds when you're harvesting them. Again, it's context to your own area, your own experience. For me, I have to put them inside and dry them again and make sure that they're dry. I only put okra seeds now in paper envelopes. I do not put them in the plastic baggies anymore just because I was turned off. I don't know. Sometimes you think they're dry and they're not dry. Sometimes the bean pods are dry, but you have to shell them and then let your beans dry again inside on a plate to make sure that they're fully dry. Because I've had that happen. Beans, same thing, got moldy. Back in the day, we would keep the beans in the pod, and like my parents had a whole bunch of unshelled beans, no problem. Mind you, there was some mold in some of them, but there was more good than bad. So it was kind of like whatever. We kept going, but if you're trying to give away seeds and keep seeds for yourself for at least for me, 5 to 10 years where it's very good quality, reliable seeds, I had to up my game. So I'm only making a suggestion. Maybe it doesn't apply to you, but I did find my okra was molding. Tomatoes were kind of looking a little Zucchini and squash were fine. Cucumber was fine, but there is a slimy coating on it if you don't soak them and ferment them. So there is a coating on it that maybe, yeah, but it's up to you. But I do recommend looking into it if you are finding a mold problem with your seeds. My watermelon, yeah, I think that happened to me. Like I'm telling you, and I know they were dry. I had them like I hate the fall because when I'm in my house, there's nothing but plates everywhere with drying seeds, labeled with what it is, just drying everywhere. Because I have to do it excessively to make sure that they're dry because I was getting mold issues and I had to throw away a whole bunch of seeds. And these were seeds from plants that were at their peak. So those seeds were excellent, but they were spoiled. One second. Hold on. Um, okay. Good morning, Devil Dog. Thanks for stopping in. It's taking me longer to save bean seeds have been. Yeah, it's so I shell my beans after the pod has been dried to a crisp on the plant. I shell them or shuck them, whatever you guys say. We call them shelling, and I put them in a plate and I let them dry out even more because I've had that experience. And there's nothing worse than going back into your tote with all your seeds, not the ones in the pack, but your own seeds in this big old tote, and you're seeing nothing but mold. At one point, I would have to even shake the seeds in some cinnamon powder to make sure and then dry them again and poke holes with a pin into the plastic baggies to make sure there's ventilation. It was just becoming too much. So I had to make some changes. So take that and apply what you need to apply. And that's pretty much for the beginner gardener. Also for hydroponics, the type of water that you use is very important. You need to use distilled water or tap water that has been sitting for over 48 hours to, you know, the off gassing of the chlorine, all that can just evaporate and you're left with cleaner water. If you do have a distiller, that's great. You can use it. I don't, but that may be something that's worth getting because constantly buying jugs of distilled water can get costly. So you need to use clean water and make sure. If you have any issues with your indoor hydroponic grow and you're just not sure, and the plants are okay-ish, but they're just acting up, take the plants out, dump all the water, wash everything again, and sanitize it and start with a clean batch of water and fertilizer and start all over again because sometimes the water can be fixed with peroxide, but if it's not fixed, you don't see it's improving, start over again and you can put the plants back in to fresh water and feed in a clean unit and they just might take off again. But that's basic general seed starting. But when you start your seeds, I do recommend select what you're going to grow because that will get rid of some of the confusion and then focus on learning when to plant those plants and also in your garden outdoors, where to put those plants, where it's going to get the best sun. Those that like shade will get the best shade over here. Even within your beds, plant the tall plants at a certain side to provide shade to the ones that require shade. These are all things to consider, but for the 2025 growing season, figure out what you're going to grow, regardless of your space, what things you like to eat, and then start to research those plants so that you can know when you need to plant them based on your own last frost date. The more that you start inside, the less transplants that you're going to have to purchase from the nursery. I always make a budget for the nursery every year just to keep them in business because we have to still use our dollars there to make sure that there is my stomach's growling. They're still in business. So I do buy certain things from the nursery, but 90% of what I grow, I did from seed myself. That gives you a lot more options on what to plant because a lot of what I'm growing, I have never seen those varieties in any grocery store at all. And if you go to the higher end stores, there's a few things you might see, like the purple potato, and I've seen delicata squash, certain things, but for the most part, nothing that you grow yourself will be at the local grocery store. All the tomatoes that I'm growing, I've never seen them at a grocery store besides the regular, beefsteak. I've never seen a Cherokee purple. I've never seen an Amish paste. I've never seen Dark Galaxy. I've never seen any of these, the yellow ones at the grocery store. They all have been purchased from seed and grown yourself. So this, if you want to enhance your variety of food and enhance the tastes of your food, pick things that you like to eat, yes, but as a caveat, try other varieties that you would never get at your local store and see what you like. And if you don't like it, not a problem. You try something different the next year and you pass those seeds on to somebody else. That's how this thing works. Cece saying she has many seedlings growing. I'm collecting tons of container. Yes, I saw your garden start from one size and now it's like 3 times the size since I first started following you. Your garden has gotten a lot, and I don't blame you. But at least you eaten. I need to purchase. Exactly. Transplants can be very expensive. Right now, I used to be able to buy 4 tomato transplants for a certain fee. Now it's either individual or it's a whole big flat all mixed up together, and that's too many tomatoes for me because I grow like 4 or 5 of different varieties. So I may have 20 plants, but I have 4 to 5 varieties. They want you to buy a whole bunch and just no, 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 no. I had purchased the Cherokee purple for $5 for one seedling only because I wanted the seeds. And I got the seeds, but I also now found them at the library. So check your library because you may be surprised because these seedlings are $5 a pop. And if you know how to take tomato cuttings and start new plants, fine. You can justify the cost sometimes because you know how to make more plants from the one. But if you're brand new and don't know nothing about that and propagating, use the seeds. It's much more affordable. It's much cheaper. And try to make a budget for your local nursery because it does keep them in business. As you heard, the other feed store that I buy my chicken feed from, the whole Canadian division is closing down. So where you spend your dollars is important. So don't always, for me, that's my opinion. I don't do everything from seed, but I do most of it. 90% is from seed. We grow it ourselves. But I do try to spend a certain amount each year at my local feed store. If it's $25, $30, that's it. I don't really go over that because there's no need to. If I can't grow herbs because I'm having a hard time growing certain herbs, you may see me buying certain herbs from there. But other than that, I grow it from seed. Food is very expensive, and food is being used again as a political tool, and they want us destitute and dependent on the system. We've been talking about it, but now I hope you're seeing it in full effect as of 2025. So take what you can get, grow it yourself, and work with your local community and swap produce with each other because that's how you're going to make the survival work in the future. You can't do everything yourself. So work with your neighbors, inspire people to grow more food in your local area, and get people inspired to grow food. Because let me tell you, they're going to think they're going to come to your house when things go left, and they ain't coming over here. Let me tell you that. Yeah, this is crazy. Let me just see what I'm going to wrap it up because I think it's been on for what almost 2 hours. Where's the time? What does it tell me? There's one grocery store over here that sells their heirloom tomatoes for $9.99 a pound, but they don't even list what varieties they are. Some of them look like purple Cherokee, but no way to know for sure. $9.99 a pound? That's expensive. Good Lord. Then you wonder why people can't afford to eat and they're eating like boxed food. Jamie has all kind of Jamie, sorry, has all kinds of loofah seed. Nothing wrong with that. Loofah can be eaten when they're young and they can be used for sponges. You can sell them and you can make nothing's wrong with that. That's excellent. I also look for pots. Yes, I have more than one plant because they are so teeth nowadays. I have seen a lot more younger people at the nursery. I always see the older people because they know they've been growing their own food. What I am also doing this year is preserving my food with more intention. I did just recently get a vacuum sealer. It was like I was watching it on my watch list on Amazon, and it kept going down, 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 down to literally like if you didn't buy it, like you really, need a slap. It was so cheap. And the bags that came with it were on clearance. So I got the bags and I got a vacuum sealer. I got a new extension cord for my hydroponics because I need the one that has like 14 places to plug into it and plus a USB plug-in or 8 plugins. And then, so I have that now because everything in hydroponics is plugging in something. Extension cords galore. And I got some new lids for vacuum sealing my stuff, my seasonings and my dry goods in my mason jars. And I already have a dehydrator. I already have a pressure canner. So between those 3 options, I'm going to be preserving more of my food that I grow. And I'm going to be I saw a few tips on Instagram which were very good, and I'm going to be making sure that my meat is better preserved because we don't have time to be wasting anything. When you buy meat, it needs to be properly packaged so that it can last in your freezer for a long time and not get freezer burned. And that's one thing I need to improve is when I'm storing my meats, whether they're raw or they're cooked, it needs to be in a very protective thing. Good morning, How to Garden, because it costs too much to have things being freezer burned. So that's what I'm going to be working on. I'm going to be talking about that going forward. And that's that. Money, I'm telling you. So watch what you're buying for your seeds because seeds can be an addiction and it can also be blowing your gardening budget. Seeds are something that I can safely say you can have a cheaper budget because you can get seeds from anywhere. Focus on the equipment and durable equipment and focus on, your containers, your pots, your soil amendments. Focus on that, in my opinion, and then seeds will come galore. Yes, I asked for a vacuum sealer for Christmas for my daughter. I'm enjoying. Yes, we used to have one back in the day. It's like everything from back in the day is coming back because my aunt and my mom they had a vacuum sealer. And it kind of became like out of style almost. But we're coming right back to those things that your food needs to last. No more wasting nothing. Anything you cook and it goes to go in a glass container in the freezer for next 2 weeks or so. Nothing's being wasted. If it doesn't get eaten, the chickens have chicken feed. Nothing here is being wasted. It's going into a closed loop. I noticed for my own house, I don't have a lot of garbage, actual garbage in my garbage bin. If it's garbage, it's actually, yes, it's garbage, but most of my stuff is full circle. It goes to the chickens. The pulp goes to the chickens if they like it. Sometimes they don't. It goes into my compost bin. It goes into to break down to go back into my garden. The manure from the chickens goes into my garden. There's very few things that are actually garbage that I'm throwing out. And I drive down the street sometimes on garbage day when I'm going, somewhere, or maybe I'm looking for, things that are nice to pick up for in my garden. Because people throw out nice stuff that can be used as a garden bed or like something in your garden. And bags and bags of garbage, like piling up high. And you're thinking, how many people, even if when I had people in my house, like the students and stuff like that, we had 4 to 5 people in the house, our garbage wasn't that much because we recycled everything. We had organic spin that had all the food scraps. And now with the garden and chickens, I don't know, but there's a lot of production of garbage that's affecting the environment. And they're dumping it in landfills and they're complaining that the beef is causing all the emission. I don't know. I'm confused. Anyways, have a good day, guys. We're going to talk more about the basics of gardening and seed starting and just starting a garden. And this is good review to many of us because sometimes we've been doing things because that's just how we do it, but it could be done in a better way to ensure that we get better results. Because if you're having any problems with gardening, let's go back to the fundamentals because sometimes it's a simple fix. And the popsicle sticks and the mold, we're done with popsicle sticks. We're done with some of those stuff. We need to modernize and use high quality reusable things, containers and tags, because if you're going to start gardening and you're using things that are quote unquote compostable, you're going to quickly learn that's the biggest cause of mold. Those reusable, those disposable containers that break down, they're made of like pulp, hate them with a passion. Don't use them. I don't know who uses them, and then you could put the whole pot in the garden. Who wants that when you have mold? Use reusable. Yes, you have to use plastic. I'm sorry. If you don't like plastic, you can use the clay pots if you really want to, but mold and bacteria are a significant problem. But have a blessed day. I will see. Oh, I'm going to be uploading a video of the January update for the WIG. So please check in with that. And I'll be doing the February one soon. My WIG is a hot mess, but you will see and you'll learn for yourself how to fix these things in the future. So it's a good learning experience. Please hit the thumbs up button before you leave if you haven't done so. Those in the bushes, those in the side streets, those in the chat, please hit the thumbs up button. It helps with the engagement. And I will see you. I should see you next week because everything's back to normal ish, give or take. And I'm going to be starting some more seeds inside. But have a blessed week. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others, even in these perilous times, because it's getting harder to be nice. Trust me, I know. All right, take care. Bye-bye.